This video focuses on living in a multicultural society as well as views on immigrant workers and refugees. So, the first thing could be asked is to describe or explain the benefits of living in a multi-faith society. Now, I have deliberately tried to make this answer as similar as possible as I can to the multi-faith one, so that it helps you with your revision. So, the first thing, the benefit of living in a multicultural society, number one, tolerance. The more understanding we have of different people of different cultures, then the more understanding we become of them, all right, and their ways, and sort of helps to unite us. The next one is that it helps, and this one is different to the multi-faith society, but it helps to promote global citizenship and develop us as sort of responsible citizens. And the reason for that is that if we are interacting with people of different cultures or different nationalities, then no longer do we feel sort of cut off from people from different countries, that we all feel united together within one country. Well, if we are, say, interacting with somebody who is Kenyan, and that there is then a natural disaster in Kenya, that we may feel that more compelled to support what's called those living in Kenya, because we may feel that we are more, because we've interacted and come into contact with people from Kenya. It helps us to understand that we have a duty to support those in different countries, all right, because of our familiarity with different cultures. The next one is that it helps to stop sort of cultural-based conflict. All right, we're back to the idea of sort of knowledge is power, all right, so that the more that we understand and we know other people, the more connected we feel, and less sort of examples of xenophobia or racism should occur. The final thing is that living, what's called, that when it comes to sort of other cultures, all right, that living with them, we can learn from one another. Okay, so it could be that in what's called, somebody of a different culture may have very strong family values and treat their parents with a great deal of respect, and you may feel, wow, that's something that I really want to learn from and apply to my family, and there's a sort of a learning opportunity. You could link this to just sort of broadening your horizons, okay? So you could link it to food as well, all right? But if you're going to do that, make sure you mention the sort of learning about family values, or learning from somebody of a different culture who may have a different faith, and you can learn from that. Don't just focus on the food, because essentially then your answer is going to turn into, for example, we get to experience eating curry and Chinese food, etc., and that won't get you the mark, okay? Now, the next thing is that you'll have to do the opposite side of this, sort of the drawbacks, all right? So the first drawback is that is to do with sort of marriage, marrying, it's called twin marrying of different cultures. Now, this may cause concerns or issues, because the family may have wanted the person, what's called the person to marry somebody who has the same sort of background or beliefs and values, whatever, and so there may cause some issues there with family. And now the next point you link that on to straight away is that the impact with this with children as well. So if a child may lose its own cultural sort of identity by having by being in a marriage between two different people of different cultures, because they may feel that they don't belong to either, and they're caught in that sort of position of, where do I belong then? All right, and that can possibly have a negative impact on the self-esteem and etc. of the child. Now, the other one is that some people believe that in a multicultural society, the UK is losing its identity. All right, and the idea of that is that some of the traditional values, if you want, or the traditional practices of the country, all right, are being altered by the fact that there is now a multicultural society, and some people see this as a drawback. Me, I disagree. Okay. The next one is that it can cause fear, abuse, or violence, and the reason for this is that obviously there are people who are racist or xenophobic, which means fearing something that is different or otherness. Okay, and this can cause sort of conflict and discrimination. It was called within a multicultural society. Now, you could get asked the evaluation question. Living in a multicultural society is a great thing to do. And if that's the case, all you do is you pick up on those points that I've just given for the two answers above, the drawbacks and the benefits of living in a multicultural society. What you then got to do, though, is explain the impact that has on the lives of others, okay, of these people with these views. So if you're thinking about people who think it's a benefit to live in a multicultural society, then the type of thing you're going to say is that they would promote community cohesion, okay, the community coming together, celebrating the benefits of living in a multicultural society. They may work with people of different cultures, what's called on community projects, things like that, that they may feel blessed. Somebody like myself, okay, who loves the fact that we live in the UK is a multicultural country, all right, that they may feel blessed to sort of live in this sort of country and embrace all that these different cultures have to offer, and that have to do with food, the practices, the values that we can learn from one another, that sort of thing. And they could also support the government in their initiatives to promote community cohesion and to celebrate the benefits of living in a multicultural society. Those who don't see the benefits, all right, they see it as a drawback, then you can talk about how they may be led to support groups such as the BNP, all right, who have members who discriminate against those of different sort of cultures because they wish for the UK to remain its traditional way. The other one is that you could say that they may argue that a multicultural society causes more problems than it does benefits. So things like racism and xenophobia are obviously more common. That they would say that there are problems that exist now that maybe didn't before, and you can link that to sort of the idea of terrorism, all right, that terrorism has been linked to people who don't conform to British society, okay, and that as a result of that maybe we're causing more problems for ourselves in this country by having a multicultural society rather than sort of the benefits of it. Now, we could be asked then about asylum seekers, okay, asylum seekers and immigrant workers. Now, sort of the Catholic view on this, or you have to be asked to describe or explain how Catholics can support asylum seekers and refugees. Now, this is going to require a revision, all right? It's a pretty difficult topic because there's a lot of content to remember here, all right? Lots of like key terms. So, obviously, Catholics believe that we should support asylum seekers and refugees, okay? So, firstly, all right, the thing that the Catholic Church does, they establish the Office for Refugee Policy, okay? The Office for Refugee Policy. So this helps what they do is that they work with the government and politicians, and they help to give religious views on immigration issues, all right, to essentially give a greater background of information to those in government to be able to best support asylum seekers and immigrant workers, okay? Because obviously people come from other countries where maybe their faith is very important to them, particularly in countries where religion is more central than what is in the UK, that the UK as a country needs to prepare to be able to support these people with their faith. The second sort of thing that the church does, so that's sort of like nationally, I mean, you think about it a bit more sort of locally, all right? So what they do is that they help to support the parish, all right, by putting forward a positive message of immigrant workers and refugees or asylum seekers, okay, that they have to promote this sort of thing. So the type of thing that they could do is they would support them, all right. So like I said, they would promote sort of their status, okay. But the sort of third point to add to this is that they want to support them sort of directly as well. So people sort of obviously come to this country, however, that they're going to need things like English language lessons, maybe advice on local healthcare, maybe about schools, okay, those sort of practical things that they need to know about, that the Catholic Church can help to provide that as well. So you're using the same evidence really to be able to support those 2 points. The first one being that they help to promote their status, but also that they help to support them when they first come to the country. All right, so promoting their status could be through community events, but it could be through sort of creating leaflets, that sort of thing. And then those same leaflets, you can talk about how they help actual asylum seekers, etc., to help become settled in the UK. The next point is that the church provides masses in languages other than English. So obviously that where you've seen people moving to Wales, that there has been quite a high influx of people who are Polish. All right, so many Catholic churches provide mass in Polish now. Okay, so they have a responsibility to do that because obviously Catholic means universal, so they need to be able to provide for all Catholic believers, okay, if possible. So those are your 4 points that you need to focus on. That they help to promote their status, they help to support them when they move to the country, they help to they ensure that mass is provided for them, and they help sort of politicians or the government themselves to be able to support those what's called immigrant workers, asylum seekers, etc., that move to the country, so that they fully understand the importance of religion to them, and how they can best be supported when they come to the country. Now, if you get asked, I've called it a curveball question. Explain why Catholics should support asylum seekers and refugees. Now, I actually think this is a really simple and straightforward question, because it is based around Jesus' teaching of showing love to others. Okay, so the first thing is that it fulfills Jesus' teaching to care for others, and you can link that to the teaching of, love thy neighbour, etc., etc. Lots of different things you can do it there. All right. So the impact that has on the lives of Catholics, or the practices of the Catholic Church, are all the things I've just said previously. Okay. So you can say about the fact they work with the government, or that they work with asylum seekers and refugees and immigrant workers when they come to the country to help support them. The second one is that it helps to fulfill Jesus' teachings. To help those who are most in need. So in the parable of the Good Samaritan, it talks about that we got to help those who really desperately need help, regardless of their background. Okay. So obviously asylum seekers in particular, all right, and refugees are desperately in need. They have fled a country where possibly their life is in danger. So the Catholic Church helps to support those by working with the government, by providing support for them when they come here, etc., etc. And the final thing you could mention here is that that they have a responsibility to cater for their ability to be able to practice their faith. Okay, and the reason for that is obviously, as I've said above, that we all should be provided with the opportunity to practice our Catholic faith, because it's a universal religion. So therefore, that if there's a community where there is a large number of people who have come from maybe one country or speak one language, that the Catholic Church should strive to be able to provide mass in that language for those people. Now, you could be asked this almost as like an evaluation question, so it's important to know why some people believe that we shouldn't support asylum seekers and refugees, which seems like a horrible thing to say, doesn't it? Okay, but there are people that do have these views. All right, so a reason why somebody wouldn't want to support an asylum seeker or refugee is that not everyone sees the benefits of helping asylum seekers or immigrant workers. Okay, and the reason for this is that they feel that asylum seekers should be helped by their own country rather than the UK. All right, and also that an immigrant worker may be filling a job that could have been taken by a British citizen. All right, so therefore the type of thing that sort of the impact that this would have on people who feel this way is that they may support the BNP, they may not support sort of the government when they want to support immigrant workers, etc. And you could even link this to the idea of Brexit. Okay, the second one is that some people argue that allowing immigrant workers and asylum seekers can lead to actually lead to problems that would never have existed if we didn't help these people. So the reason for this is that the ideas of sort of terrorism and extremism, that they've been linked to sort of communities that don't conform to British society, and that is a fairly common thing, that with asylum seekers, however, that they are linked together because of a support network, but they may not then actually accept sort of British society, and they may wish to continue to live their lives as they did in sort of their own country of origin, and that in these communities is where sort of extremism and terrorism has occurred. I'm not saying that it's the only place it can occur, all right, but it sort of has occurred from there. So therefore, these people would say, some people do believe that, look, we shouldn't be helping asylum seekers, refugees, etc., because they may actually pose a risk to our society as well. Okay, so that concludes the video on asylum seekers, refugees, and multicultural society.